If you've ever wondered what the heck you actually said at the end of that party,
or wanted a do-over button for those cringe-worthy encounters,
then you've experienced what we call the joy of awkwardness.
I'm Mendy.
And I'm Bree.
And we're here to celebrate the awkward.
Embrace the awkward.
And remind you of one important thing.
You may be awkward,
but you're definitely not alone.
Well, that was awkward.
Hi, Bree.
Hi, Mendy. Do you have any awkward stories from this week?
Yes. So I had to get my IUD changed out. That is an anti-pregnancy device that lives in your ute for all the dudes out there. And I had mine for a certain number of years. It's time to trade out and get a new one. And you have to go to the gynecologist for this and, get in those stirrups, put your stuff in the air. And it's always weird to lay back and put your stuff in the air, right? And expose your areas. That's just awkward in and of itself. Although I love my gynecologist. She was my midwife who got demoted to a photographer when my kid came out upside down and a month early. But if anyone can make me feel comfortable with my lady bits on blast in the air, it is Claudia. Well, she's second place to my true love. So this process, there's different phases, any of which could hurt. They stick in a thing that opens up your stuff, and then they go in and they get the old thing and they pull it out. And then while your thing is still open, they get the new thing and they put it up in there. And then the thing that opens it, they pull that out. And any of those things can hurt. And I'm sure you guys are impressed by my technical jargon.
Yeah, very official.
Thank you. So there's this expectation that anything could hurt at any bit. So I was doing all right. And then she pulls out the box of the new IUD, and it's big. It's like a Toblerone candy bar size box. And I look over and I'm like, oh my God. I was like, it's not that big, is it? Has everything in my body just become droopy and floppy? And so we just need a much bigger one this time. She's like, no, that's just packaging. And then she asked if I want to see the thing. And I was like, no. I don't like anything medical at all. I told her, I was like, I just like to imagine that what you're putting in there is a Playmobil. Remember those? A little Playmobil that looks just like Rosie the Riveter, who's in there just like punching sperms and protecting my feminism and my freedoms and stuff like that. We did get to one part that it was the most uncomfortable. It was near the end. And I was like, oh, here comes the pain. And I'm laying there looking at the ceiling. So as I do, I burst into song and start singing a little song to soothe me. Like, this is the part that you warned me about. You put the thing in, now please get out. And it ended up being okay. And singing actually helped. So yes, I did make Claudia and her assistant giggle. But that was definitely my most awkward situation from the week.
You have such an aversion to seeing anything that's going on in your body. And I am completely fascinated by it. When I had my cesarean, I asked for a mirror so that I could watch every bit of the surgery.
Oh,
we're complete opposites in that way.
That is so gross, Bree. You're not supposed to see your own intestines. I think that is really traumatic to your animal lizard brain.
It's not gross. What's traumatic to me is not knowing what the hell they're doing to me. I want to know every little bit.
No.
If a knife slips, I want to know when it happened, where it happened, and how it happened. I want to know.
I want it all to be a mystery. I want it all to be a grand mystery. I have all kinds of toys, Playmobiles and Legos holding all this up. Oh, but Bree, no. You're not supposed to see your own chitlins. You've seen your own chitlins. Absolutely not.
I have. I am proud of seeing my own chitlins.
What's your awkward story from this week? I know you've got one.
You know about this one, actually. So Mendy and I are in a number of group chats together. I think our listener knows what it's like to be on a group chat. And I think our listener also probably knows what it's like to think that you're sending a text message to one person and accidentally sending it to the group chat. And that's exactly what happened to me. So we had a very dear mutual friend of ours who has been incredibly supportive of really every creative venture that we've done. You know who I'm talking about, Mendy.
Oh, okay, I remember the text now. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
I love her. So, she's in my top 5, my handful of friends, my girls.
And so she had been texting us about the podcast, and she said that she was going to share some links with some friends of hers, which is just amazing and so supportive. And in the meantime, I was working on our web page for Buy Me a Coffee, which is our donations page. So I had done sort of the first draft of it and sent it to Mendy for a review, but accidentally sent it to the group chat. So then our sweet, supportive friend was like, this link, I don't think I'm going to share this with my friends right now. And P.S., there are some typos in here, and I was mortified.
I remember that. That's funny because I didn't even see that text at all. I wasn't any help. So thank you, friend, for doing my job for me that I was supposed to do.
And thank you, friend, for being tolerant of me as I had my awkward moment of the week.
Oh, it's embarrassing, too, because of all the different pages you could have sent to get proofread by me that I would have ignored and not seen. You sent one that was like, hey, buy us a coffee. So it looked like you were reaching out specifically to her for coffee money.
Yeah, it did. It really did.
So actually, I owe her a copy for doing my job for me.
Whew, that was my awkward moment from the week. But you know what? I got through it. No friendships were befouled. It's all fine.
And I'm sure she still thinks you're smart.
Maybe.
Well, that was awkward.
Now that we've shared our awkward moments, can you tell me about our listeners' awkward moment?
Oh, Bree, you are going to love this one. Today's story is from George.
George Steele?
George Steele.
So excited. I saw that name come through on the spreadsheet, and I was like, I cannot wait to hear whatever someone named George Steele comes up with.
Just so you know, this is his anonymized name, but he chose it for himself. I love it. You can use my story, but you're going to call me George. George Steele.
So that goes for all listeners. If you call in a story and you want to use a specific name, I'm thinking this might be a way to get back at your childhood bully.
Ooh.
You know, there are all sorts of things that you can do with this strategy. All right. So George Steele.
George Steele, he lives in a big city on the East Coast. He's in his early 20s. He's a professional. He told me what it was, but I didn't really get it. He's really smart at computers. He builds platforms with protocols and Javas and Pythons. Like, you know, Bree, have you ever stressed out your computer to the point that this little black screen pops up and it looks like the movie Tron? The font is all green and Mrs. DOS.
Yep.
He knows how to talk to computers that have gotten mad and flashback to the 80s. He speaks angry computer. And his job is really time consuming because it's really important. It can also get really boring, right? Doing the same thing over and over. And he doesn't have a lot of time to get out and meet the ladies and hit the social scene. So he's been on like the Bumbles and stuff, and he's made a few matches, but nothing has really ever clicked. And Bree, I know better than to ask you if you've met someone on a dating app because we have aged out of that phenomenon.
You know, when I met Jeff, we predated phones and computers. It was so long ago.
Do you think you could use a dating app? See, I don't think I could. I need someone's full 3D, 4D, 5D essence in my area to know. I couldn't just look at a picture and be like, hey, let's do this. Right? Do you think you could do that?
Like if there were no other way to meet people, I can see it being better than nothing.
Yeah. So one day, he notices that he's been matched with a woman named Kara. So he asked her on a date.
Was there something about Kara's profile that really drew his attention?
I asked him that, and he said, no, nothing about her looks or her career. Her career was something like a file manager. Oh, but he did say that she was wearing some arm warmers, some gauntlets that she had knitted herself. So maybe it was the Etsy gauntlets that did it.
Crafty core. Yeah.
Yes.
Into the crafty girl.
And so they decide to meet at a little Hungarian jazz cafe called the Budapest Bistro. Pretty cute, right?
Super cute. Was it divided into two? Was like half of it a jazz bar and half of it a restaurant?
Why?
Because Budapest has two sides. It has the Buddha side and the Pest side.
So is the Buddha side Buddhist and the Pest side is pescatarian?
I don't know. I actually am looking this up really quickly because I'm wondering if this is a lie that somebody told me.
Oh!
I have been to Budapest and it's on the Danube River. Oh, yeah, I am right. Okay. The previously separate towns of Buda, Obuda, and Pest were officially united in 1873. Whew, I'm glad that was not a traveler's legend. That would have been really embarrassing.
I love the way you say Budapest, too. It sounds so sophisticated and smart. So, just like George and Kira, they were apart. And then they come together on this first date, which is actually kind of a blind date, right? If you've only seen this person's picture, Bree, what would you wear on a blind date? Because I think it's different than if you'd met someone in real life.
So I would want to look good, but like I wasn't trying too hard. So I would probably wear good blue jeans that made my ass look really good and a top that made me look like I had boobs.
I like that. I would add to that. I would probably do the jeans thing, but my top would be a band that I really like. Probably a lesser known one. Like, I love reggae. So there's this band called the Abyssinians that not a lot of people know about. And I would know that if you knew the Abyssinians, that we've got some real potential there. I'd also make sure I have pockets for pepper spray.
Pepper spray?
Stranger danger.
Really?
I don't know this dude or this lady or this person. I'm bringing pepper spray. You don't ever know. You gotta be careful.
Okay, so what did they wear?
Well, they wore sweats. George wears sweats and Kara wears sweats. And not even like Lululemon sweats, like straight up Hanes.
Hanes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Neither one of them has put any effort whatsoever into this meetup. And I think that's just the way of the youngins these days, because this is a current story, fairly current.
I think you're right. They took the grunge of the 90s to the extreme. It's no more about flannel shirts and ripped jeans. It's like pajamas.
Yes. And so George and Kara, they're totally blasé about this whole date. But he says he's a really good conversationalist, so he does try. So he asks her, the standard questions. What are your interests? And she's just like, I like watching paint dry so I could see how the color changes. Okay. Do you like any shows? And she just says, I like having the Weather Channel on in the background. He asks her where she grows up. Somewhere busted, like Arkansas.
Did you just call Arkansas busted?
Okay, you want me to not do that?
I'm not cutting that. So, okay, not a whole lot going on there, but at least it's a jazz bar, right? A good location will solve a lot of problems. There's at least some good music.
Yes, inside, but they sit outside. They don't even hear the music. So they're sitting there. It's boring. But somehow the option of a second date comes up. And they're just both like, okay, whatever. And something in George just clicks. He's sitting outside at this gorgeous little cafe in this big city with life swirling around him. And he realizes that his life has become like the movie Office Space. So he has his Walter Mitty moment where he decides that he's got to take fate into his own hands. And he blurts out, let's go away for the weekend. Let's just get on an airplane and just go.
That's like main character energy. Get out of the rut, take a romantic trip, go for it.
Last tango in Paris, except more like Tallahassee.
Without the stick of butter.
Yeah. Because George is on a budget. So they don't go that far, but they do go somewhere fabulous. And she agrees. She says, okay, whatever. And he looks up flights out of their city. And the cheapest and soonest, Bree, is to, drumroll, Savannah, Georgia.
That was a great choice, George. Really great choice.
It was an accidental choice, maybe a serendipitous one. We will see. But yes, he happened to, that's the cheapest flight out of this city.
It's a good place to go on the cheap. There's a lot to do.
Well, they don't have that much time there, though, Bree. It is a 24-hour whirlwind romantic adventure.
I love it. This is right up my alley.
So you would go on this trip? You would, if you were the girl, you would say yes.
I would definitely go. Yes.
But what about stranger danger?
Whatever. It's a good trip. It's a good adventure. You got to live on the edge. You got to have fun.
Oh my God, Bree. This is why Denise and I listen to crime podcasts so we can protect you. This is crazy. This is the perfect way to murder someone. You just sneak them out of town, murder them, and leave them there. Bree, good God.
This is why I don't listen to true crime podcasts, because I want to enjoy and make the most of my one short life.
Your very short life if you keep this mess up. All right. So they meet early in the morning at the airport, wearing their Hanes. They sleep on the flight. They wake up in beautiful Savannah. So, Bree, I know you're basically an ambassador for the Savannah Department of Tourism. What are some things they could be doing in Savannah?
They can walk through the beautiful parks. They can go down to River Street if they're into the tourist thing. I'm not, but a lot of people love it. They can go on a ghost tour, go to Tybee Island, drink roadies out of solo cups from Pinky Masters. It's the best.
I agree with you. I've been there before and I love it as well. I don't have as much time in as you do.
Yeah, just for the listener, I lived in Savannah for 4 or 5 years. I loved living there.
These kiddos, though, Bree, they're in their 20s. And you and I could just be happy walking around, looking at architecture and hugging live oaks and throwing down those roadies.
And talking to ghosts. So many ghosts in Savannah.
I know, it's thick. The couple of times I've been there, I've had to say excuse me to a few people, and I'm not even tuned into that stuff. But these kids somehow make Savannah unfun. Bree, do you have anyone like that in your world? Just a super duper boring person?
I probably did, but I forget them. They're forgettable.
Okay, yeah, I've probably forgotten a lot too.
How about you?
I've got an acquaintance who they bore me, not because of them being inherently boring, but because no matter where we are, they want to talk about their crappy life. And then they try to hook me in by getting me to talk about how crappy my life is, but it's just a ploy so they can segue into how crappy their life is. And that just bores me dwelling on that shit.
You need a force field up against those people. Yeah.
Force field, that's right. So George is trying so hard to at least make this bearable. He's being his good conversating self, but it's just epic fail after epic fail. They go on one of those historical home tours, but it's the home of the lady who founded the Girl Scouts, so that's a big yawner.
That's Juliette Gordon-Low. That's a great tour.
I'm sure she was very important to feminism in the United States, but I don't like to go look at any historical person's old, boring house. Look, here's their yarn wheel. Here's their tiny-ass little bed. Jesus.
But you know what they do have there? Girl Scout cookies. That's good.
Wait, Bree, have you confirmed this with your superiors at the
No.
Board of Tourists?
No, if I ran the Juliette Gordon-Low home, they would have Girl Scout cookies. And in my mind, that is the way it is.
So, of course, the cookies come up in conversation, and he asks her what her favorite Girl Scout cookie is. And her favorite Girl Scout cookie is, what do you think, Bree? The best Girl Scout cookie. I hope we agree.
The one that's a little circle with a little hole in the middle, and it has the coconut and the caramel and the chocolate. Oh,
Yep.
so good. What's that one called?
Samosas. No, that's my favorite Indian appetizer. Samoas.
Yes, Samoas. That's it. Yeah.
So let's just call them Jason Momoas because they're tasty. We could have mimosas and Samoas with Jason Momoa. That is the best cookie. It is not her favorite cookie, but what's your second favorite cookie? Maybe that was her favorite cookie.
The Thin Mint cookie. Right now we're in the middle of a heat wave, and I could really use a Thin Mint cookie that you put in the freezer and then you eat it frozen. So good.
100%. We are 100% in line. That is the second
Oh,
best
right.
Girl Scout cookie. Bree, if I went down the entire list of Girl Scout cookies, you would never name what her favorite cookie is because it's nasty. Her favorite cookie is a trefoil.
I don't even know what that is.
Trefoils are the shortbread ones, all bland. They're not even really cookies. It's just a cracker trying to act like a cookie.
That's a Boy Scout cookie.
That's just hard tack. You put that in your satchel and you go off to war. You get them trefoils. That's her favorite cookie. So yes, her favorite cookie is the boring-ass plain one.
Mandy, I'm going to give her benefit of the doubt, okay?
Okay.
Maybe she has IBS or an autoimmune disorder. Maybe that's why she likes very bland cookies.
Okay, yes. So the next adventure, they go to the Telfair Art Museum. Have you been there before, Bree?
I love the Telfair Art Museum. You know what they have there, Mendy, that I think you would love? They have the Khalil Gibran exhibit.
The Prophet.
Yeah, he wrote The Prophet, beautiful writer, philosopher. He was also a painter, and the Telfair Art Museum has the largest collection of all of his paintings.
I didn't know he was a painter. I'm not sure if they saw that exhibit, but the whole time they're walking around looking at all those amazing things, she's just, yeah, I don't get it. So it's a total bust.
You know, I'm rooting for this woman. Saying I don't get it at an art exhibit takes a lot of balls. It takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, and I've got a big old pair of cojones because I say it at pretty much every art exhibit I go to. They go on a ghost tour.
That's fun.
Yes, at the Bonaventure Cemetery, which was featured in the movie Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil.
The book was better.
You know what? Kara would agree with you because they get started on this tour and she is just like, whatever, Kevin Spacey was canceled.
I mean, she's not wrong there.
So another bust. All signs are pointing not necessarily to this trip being a disaster, but there's definitely utter boredom around every single corner. Bree, what do you do at this point? You're stuck on the most awkward extended date ever.
At this point, I would just cut my losses and do exactly what I wanted to do and not worry about her.
I love that. Yeah, just go and get your roadies and talk to the ghosts. They're probably more entertaining. I bet they've got some stories.
I'd also go get some really good food. There's so much good food in Savannah. I go to the Shabazz. Like, they have the best fish sandwiches in the world. There's Clarice. That's a diner. They call you honey as soon as you walk in the door. I love that. There's the Pink House if you're fancy.
I've been to the Pink House.
Yeah.
And guess what? They go to the Pink House too. You're right on the same wavelength with George. They go to the old Pink House, and George is finally able to enjoy what Savannah has to offer and to indulge himself. He has blackened oysters on the half shell with green tomato chow and spicy shrimp and grits and a southern biscuit that was actually made from scratch by a Savannah grandma. And he even gets dessert. He gets a big old slice of peach pie with a pecan crust, not pecan, a pecan crust and a praline drizzle.
He was hungry.
And she orders plain noodles, steamed broccoli, and a side of unseasoned potatoes and some water without ice.
Yeah, that's definitely IBS.
And the conversation, he says, was like eating a rice cracker.
Maybe she's thoughtful and pensive and private.
And doesn't know a good cookie when she sees it. After dinner, they get an Uber to their hotel, and amazingly, the awkward gets even awkwarder.
I don't know how.
The car smells like ham. That's one way to do it.
Yeah, that's gross.
The driver has security cameras placed all over the car.
Creepy.
And all the little screens for the security cameras so they can see themselves on the live feeds, which makes them even more self-conscious. And the driver, Bree, is an overtalker.
Oh, no, not
Yes.
an overtalker.
The whole time she's telling them her harrowing life story while trying to make them eat chocolate.
At least there's chocolate. That's good.
No, it's not, Bree. You don't eat the chocolate. It's probably laced with sedatives so she can forest murder them. Good God, Bree.
I would eat the chocolates.
I know you would. Bree, you don't eat the chocolate.
I would eat the chocolate.
Bree, you are never allowed to travel alone ever again. Denise and I are going with you everywhere. Make room in that car. Make room in your budget. They do not eat the chocolate, so they do not end up in the woods. They make it to their hotel, finally.
Well, did they go to a good hotel? There's so many beautiful inns in Savannah.
No! George is on a budget. They are at a well-known chain, we'll call it the Green Gate Lodge. It's got a low-drop ceiling, thin comforter. You couldn't even call it a comforter. It's more like a tepid hugger. Fluorescent lights. Just
Ooh, sexy place.
Speaking of sexy, they do the deed. They do it. He says that they had, quote, incredibly mild sexual relations.
What does that even mean?
I don't want to think about it. They have a 7 a.m. flight home, right? They need to be at the airport at 6 the next day. They have the Uber reserved for 5 just to be safe.
Ooh,
and it's 2 a.m. now, and they are beat. So they both zonk out way hard. And finally, during the middle of the night, George gets the adrenaline rush that he's been craving.
Ooh, does she get all freaky in the middle of the night?
No. Let me give you a little backstory. George has been suffering since he was a little boy from a recurring nightmare.
Oh, no.
In this nightmare, he gets up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And on his way to the bathroom in the darkness, somebody jumps out and screams at him really loud and scares the crap out of him.
Then what happens?
Bree, that's it. That's scary enough.
Okay, it's a scary dream.
It's a really scary dream that he's been having ever since he was a kid.
It's a scary dream. I'm just jaded. I would eat the chocolate.
God, nothing phases you. So somewhere around 3 a.m., George awakens in the absolute darkness to a relentless shrieking sound. A shrill horn is blaring and piercing his eardrums. And this would terrify anyone, right? I'm going to get you. I'm going to jump out and do it to you. See if you're like, oh, that's not so great.
Oh, no, I'd be terrified.
You're tough as nails. All right, so this would terrify anyone, including you, Bree. And George is not only suffering from a lack of sleep and has just woken to the sound of the apocalypse, he's also reverted back to the absolute terror of his childhood. So his lizard brain is in full effect. And he looks over and he sees another human. Our friend George is about as blind as you, Bree.
And he's not wearing his glasses.
He's not wearing his glasses. And in the inky blur of the night, with adrenaline from sheer terror coursing through his body, and I imagine probably some liquor drinks too, he sees what looks like a stranger in his bed. He's in the middle of his worst nightmare. He jumps out of bed and starts screaming, and he grabs the stranger by their shoulders and starts shaking her, yelling, "Ma'am! Ma'am! Ma'am, wake up! Ma'am, get up! Ma'am!" She comes to, and she grabs him right on back by the shoulders and starts shaking him while screaming at him. Both of them, it's just all primal fear. Fight, flight, or freeze? Nope, none of the above. They flail, freak out. And then as they're staring at each other, shaking each other, something starts to click for both of them. Actually, this person does look familiar. Oh, right. I'm in Savannah with that totally incompatible, unmemorable date. What's their name? And they start laughing. Finally.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, until they smell smoke. And they're like,
oh, no.
Oh, shit, that sound, that's not the apocalypse. It's worse. It's a fire alarm. So they throw in their hands and they race right out.
I can't believe it was a real fire. There was something really burning?
Yes, it was a washing machine fire. And after the washing machine was put out, they head back in, but they can't sleep. So they just stay awake until the Uber comes and head on back to the
It's only 2 hours, so not a big deal.
Exactly. They do get a seating upgrade on the way back home, though.
That's fun. First class?
No. Comfort Plus.
So I bet that was the end of that.
Well, that was the end of the longest, awkwardest date possible. But, and this is maybe going to surprise you, they went on to have an incredibly mild and awkward relationship for 3 whole months after that.
3 months?
3 months. Well, that was awkward.
I can't believe that. 3 months. Whew.
Yep.
That is an awkward date gone long. So what would you have done differently in this situation?
Oh, God, Bree. I'm such an adrenaline junkie. I really can't be bored. I just can't. It's something I've tried to work on. I would have gotten you or Denise to text me, and I would say that my imaginary sister Dana is in labor with her baby girl, baby Dana. And she's in labor right now with little baby Dana, and I've got to get out of there. So I would say, you know what? You stay here. You enjoy the rest of the trip. Don't follow me. And I'd get on the first flight out of there. I'd call an Uber. I'd start margaritaing, and I'd margarita myself all the way home.
I like that idea because Denise and I get to role play Dana a little bit. That's fun.
I'm sure you've probably been Dana before for me. Maybe you didn't know it.
The truth will out. Okay, I fully approve of that plan. I already told you what I would do earlier in the date. I would have pivoted mid-date as well. But it is also interesting because I'm thinking about how attraction works.
Oh, yeah.
It makes me think of those studies that show that, like, if you're in a more dangerous or precarious position, that you're more likely to fall in love.
I don't remember seeing the study, but I've heard that before. Like, you'd start to feel like spicy.
I read about one recently, like they asked people to rate somebody on attractiveness at the beginning and at the end of a roller coaster ride. And they marked the person more attractive at the end of the roller coaster ride than at the beginning. So they kind of had that.
Yeah.
What?
They'd been through something.
Yeah, well, actually, I think it's really that the hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, all of those kind of stress hormones are very closely related to what you feel when you fall in love. So it kind of puts you in that state of falling in love.
And I wonder, too, if you're also feeling on an animal level, if you're feeling we're about to die out, we better breed. We're going to die.
Right.
Let's go on and breed, keep this thing going. And I actually saw a similar study to yours, Miss Smarty Pants. It was saying that's the actual stuff you cited. Those reasons is actually why they found that there's more hand jobs per capita during horror movies than other movies. Bree, how would you rate this experience on your awkward meter? 1 to 10.
It's pretty awkward to be on a date like that, right? Where the person's not responding to you, you're not clicking, and it's prolonged, and there's a monetary investment. So, like, in terms of intensity of awkwardness, I don't actually think it's that bad. I would give it like a 4. But because it's prolonged, because of that 3-month extended relationship that was awkward the whole friggin' time, I'm going to have to give that a higher score, like a 9. So let's give it like a 6.5.
6.5. I think I would be a little bit higher. I think I'd be around an 8 just because I really cannot be bored. This would be torture for me. I would have fled so early on. I wouldn't have gotten to the fun part, the fire alarm part.
I have to say the thing that kind of saved the whole event for me was being in Savannah. My heart is just a little fuller visiting Savannah even through this podcast episode. So did he offer any advice to people who are in similar situations?
Yes. Make sex memorable. At least memorable enough to the point that you would be recognized when you are woken up together by the sound of a fire alarm.
I'm just picturing these two people who don't even make eye contact for the entire weekend, so they don't know what they look like. I mean, they
barely know each other.
Okay.
But he did ask us for a little bit of advice, Bree. He wants to know if, when they fled the burning building, should he have carried her out? Not sweet.
It's a good question. Right? I get it. And I want to applaud his romanticism there, even if it happened after the event. This is what I think. If he was meant to carry her out, he would have not had to ask the question, should I have carried her out? He would have been motivated to just scoop her up and carry her through the burning building. He would have wanted to. There would have been no question about it. So that he didn't feel that need or desire or impulse then means that he shouldn't have.
That's so sweet. And she could have carried him out too. You know, I do it all by size. I do it all by size. If I'm with a dude in a whatever situation and the building's on fire, I might be the one to carry them. You know, send out guns out.
Yeah.
I might be the tougher one. I just wonder if it had been me and I woke up thinking I was next to a stranger, I would have left him in there. I would have run out and be like, there's a pervert in room 12. Go get him so they can make it to trial. There's a pervert in my bed. I pepper sprayed him.
Room 12, first floor.
It would not have been good. It's a good thing I had already margarited my way home to see little baby Dana get born.
So that was pretty awkward. Do we want this episode to last as long as that date did?
Let's carry these people out of here with a jingle. George was a nerd, he spoke Tron.
Met with Kara to get it on.
Flew to Savannah, but the trip was a yawn.
Well,
That was awkward.
3 a.m., sirens blare.
Stranger in her underwear.
At last, a spark in this affair.
And a 3-month love story ensues.
'Twas incredibly mild.
Well, that was awkward.
Hey, do you smell smoke?
Stranger danger.
This has been an Awkward Sage production.